Out the overhead absorption rate, OAR. So let's read this question. It said M Limited is considering how to cost its product. It needs to decide on the overhead absorption basis it will use. The method it is considering are a machine hour and the labor hour. Okay. Complete the table below to show the two overhead absorption rate that M Limited could use. Show your calculation to decimal. Okay, we'll do that. And they said the following data relate to making 1 unit of product. Okay, so material 5 kilogram, labor 15, machine time 10 minutes. All right, it's not difficult. They're asking to calculate the absorption rate. So absorption rate is called OAR, overhead absorption rate, and the formula is total overhead in the top, the cost, total overhead. So you write the cost here, and the bottom is the activity level. Now the activity can be machine hour, can be labor hour. The question will tell us. So we can have the first one is a machine hour. So overhead divide activity. So if I divide that 450 times 30, that gives me 15. So I said 15 per hour. The next one 450 divide 450,000 divide 56 to 50, that gives me 8 pounds. That's it. Now I have to complete the table for the machine hour and for the labor hour. Okay. So the material we have 5 kilo and 3.20 per kilo. So 5 times 3.20, that will give us 16 pounds for both. Labor 15 minute and 15.40 per hour. So 15.40 per hour, I need to convert in a minute because the question gave me the minute. So I said 15.40 divide 60, because in 1 hour is 60 minutes, isn't it? If I divide that, that gives me per minute. If I multiply by 15, that will give me for the 15 minute. So 15.40 divide 60, so that will give me per minute, times by 15, that gives me for 15 minutes. So 3.85. 3.85. So I said 3.85. 3.85. The next one is the overhead that is linked to here. We have the overhead absorption rate. So for the machine is 15 per hour. So for the machine we have 10 minutes. So we said 15 over 60, that will give me per minute, and times by 10. So I said 15 pounds for 1 hour, so that is 60 minute, and times by 10 minutes, that gives me how much? So 15 pounds 60 times 10, that gives me 2.5. So 2.50 for that. And the next one we have, that is 8 pound. So 8 pound for 60 minutes, and that's the labor. So 15 minutes times 15 minutes. So we said that's the labor hour we have, 8. So let's calculate that. So 8 divide 60 times, for the labor we have 15 minutes, 15, and that gives us 2. That's it. So if we added this 3, it will give us the total cost, 16 plus 3.85 plus 2.50, that is 22.35. 16 plus 3.85 plus 2, that is 21.85. That's for our labor cost. All right, let's move on. Let's have a look if we can do one more question. This one we have the cost behavior. Let's say we can do that. So the first one, they said identify the type of cost of each of the 3 costs described below. Cost behavior, like we have some cost is the variable, we have some cost is fixed, some semi-variable, some is like step cost. So you need to see what type of cost it is. Now the fixed cost is fixed, that doesn't change. Whatever is the activity level doesn't matter, fixed costs remain fixed. Then we have the variable cost. The variable cost change based on the activity level. If the activity is high, variable cost high. If the activity is low, variable cost is low. On the semi-variable cost is the cost where some portion is variable, some portion is fixed. So inside of the semi-variable cost, we have a portion of fixed cost and we have a portion of variable cost. Okay, so plant maintenance, they said 50,000 per year, whatever is the activity. So that means if I don't make, 50,000 is cost, so it's a fixed cost. And plus £2 per unit, so that's variable. So we have a fixed and variable both. So when we have a fixed and variable both, we call it semi-variable cost. Then direct material per unit, so that's the variable cost completely. If I make, there will be cost. If I don't make, there will be no cost. Depreciation of factory building is 60,000 per year, is fixed anyway. So if I don't do anything, if I don't make any unit, still my depreciation is fixed per year. So it's a fixed cost. All right, so let's move on to the next section, that is B. And on the B section, it says complete the section for the cost. Okay, so let's do that. So complete the table to show the cost for production output level 2,000, 4,000, and 6,000. So variable cost will be keep changing. So for 2,000 unit, the cost is 3,000. So I said 3,000 pound is the cost for 2,000 unit. If I divide that, that will give me the cost per unit. If I multiply with 4,000, that will give me the cost for 4,000. So I said 3,000 divide 2,000 unit times 4,000. That gives me 6,000, because it will keep changing, isn't it? The same way we do for the 6,000. This time I'll multiply here with the 6,000, and that will give me the same way 9,000. Fixed cost remain fixed, it will not change. Doesn't matter if I make or don't make, fixed cost remain fixed. If I added these two, that will give me the total cost. So 15 plus 3 is 18, 6 plus 15 is 21,000, and 9 plus 15 is 24. It's a very easy question. All right, so that's interesting. Let's do one more question, maybe task 7. Okay, so we have direct cost, indirect cost, direct labor, indirect labor, manufacturing expense. We have a work in progress, opening, closing, and we have a closing finish. So this question could be tricky because you have a work in progress, that is WIP, and you have a finish. You have to remember there's a formula called cost of sales. In the cost of sales, what you need to do, you need to have opening inventory plus purchase less closing inventory. That will give you the cost of sales. Now, if you don't have the purchase, that means the production cost is the purchase. So you have to consider like that. And if you have opening inventory, so that means it comes from the last period. So whatever is the closing for this period is the opening for the next period. So opening means it's come from the last period, so you don't need this thing. And the closing that you have to keep for this period. So you need to always minus the opening and add the closing to see how much you need to keep. And if you have the finished good from the cost of sales, you always minus this closing inventory. That will give you the value for the cost of sales. So let's try that. The prime cost. Prime cost means the all direct cost. If I added all the direct costs, this is called prime cost. So let's have a look how many direct costs we have. So we have, the first one is a prime cost. Prime cost means only direct cost. Only direct cost. So I have a 20,000 and I have 60,000 direct, 40,000. So that will give me total 60,000. Okay, so the prime cost, I'm happy with that. And the next one, I have manufacturing overhead. How much is the overhead? So overhead means all the indirect cost. So let's have a look. Indirect cost. Indirect cost called overhead, same thing. Indirect cost and the overhead, same thing. So I have indirect 5,000. So I have indirect 25,000. And I have indirect 70,000. Anything is not direct is indirect. So that is 5 plus 25, 30 plus 70, 100,000. All right, so we have this two. Let's move to the next one. The next one we have total cost, total manufacturing cost. Of course, if I added this two, 60 plus 100,000, that will give you 160,000. This is the total manufacturing cost. Then we have a cost of good manufactured. So this one we have to consider now our opening and closing work in progress. So let's say our total production cost is 160,000, and we already have 8,000. We have to keep the closing 12,000. So we need to see how can we do that. So we said, so we need to minus the closing 12,000. We have to add the opening 8,000. So 160 minus 12 plus 8, that gives me 156,000. Because whatever I have closing, so I'm not using it, so that's not my cost. So you have to keep it anyway. And the opening is something we had from the last period, so this is the completed one. So basically work in progress means this is not completed yet, it's still on the machine. So the unit is still processing, it's not done yet. So I said that's it. And finally I have closing finish. So this is completed, finish 26,000. So from the production cost, I minus it to get my cost of sales. So minus this one, close inventory, and that gives me cost of sale 130,000. All right, now we can just write it down here on the box. So let's write it down. So we have the prime cost, that is 60,000. That's the direct cost you have calculated. Indirect cost you have calculated 100,000 here. Then total, basically 100 plus 60 is total manufacturing cost, 160,000. Then good manufacturing cost that we have calculated, 156, this one. And cost of goods sold, that is 130,000. All right, it's not difficult. So if you do a little bit practice, you'll be fine. So I'll finish here today. Maybe I'll make another video later on to do some more practice question for all of you. Hopefully it will be helpful for your exam. And of course, you have my email address on the below description. If you need any additional support to me, you can always email me. I'll try to help you. All right, so thank you very much for watching.